I'd like to take you backstage and report on some of the things that go on around Congress that the public doesn't know about. There's a lot of machinery and housekeeping behind the speeches you hear on the floor of the House and the Senate, and behind the laws that are finally passed. A lot of interesting things take place under that great dome of the Capitol, the most famous dome in the world, and to me, one of the most inspiring. It took 17 years for an Italian painter, Constantine Brumidi, to paint part of the frieze around the Capitol. Then he fell from the scaffold and was killed. All sorts of art and statuary inspire a visitor to the Capitol. This statue of Benjamin Franklin just in front of the Senate chamber. This bust of Vice President Adlai Stevenson, grandfather of the recent candidate for president. Alongside him, Theodore Roosevelt, who also served as vice president until McKinley was assassinated. And these ornate decorations on the floor. We're too busy these days to go in for decorations like this, but our forefathers carefully put them in the capital of the United States, making it one of the most inspiring buildings in the nation. All this is what the ordinary tourist sees when he goes to Washington. But what I want to show you are some of the things that he doesn't see. So in a minute, I'll give you my own backstage Washington merry-go-round tour of the nation's capital. Now, if you visit the Capitol and go to see your senator, you walk through wide open, beautiful halls and corridors. What most people don't know, however, is that there are also some small, narrow corridors hidden away in the recesses of the Capitol. And if you want to find your senator alone, you can sometimes catch him down one of these small corridors, almost like a labyrinth of catacombs in the Capitol building, which tourists seldom see and which the average visitor never enters. In these off-the-beaten-track corridors, there are private elevators to take senators to the Senate chamber quickly when the bell rings for an important vote. Off these corridors, every important senator has a private office. Here, for instance, are the offices of Senator Hayden of Arizona and Senator Sparkman of Alabama. Their names are not on the door, and only a few people know where the offices are located. But busy senators require a hideaway like this to get away from the tremendous pressures of their jobs in order to study and think. Another room the tourist doesn't see is the Senate Barbershop, where every senator has his own shaving mug with his name on it and his shaving brush alongside. Some of the great names in American history have had their mugs on these shelves. Also, some of the well-known names of the Senate today: Lyndon Johnson of Texas, Bill Nolan of California, Tom Hennings of Missouri. Shaves and haircuts are free in the Senate. In the House of Representatives barbershop, however, a congressman must pay, though the price is 75 cents, one-half the regular charge in Washington. Now, if you, as an average citizen, visit your senator, you go to the Senate reception room, a very beautiful room, by the way. Send your name in by a page, and if your senator is not busy making a speech or voting, he will probably come out. Here is Senator Church of Idaho, a very fine new member, coming out of the inner sanctum of the Senate to greet out-of-town friends. One of his out-of-town friends is William Smart, news editor of the Salt Lake City Deseret News. They talk in front of the bust of the late Secretary of State, Cordell Hull. But if you're a newspaper man with regular Senate credentials, you can see a senator at a special entrance. That big green vase is the entrance to the Senate cloakroom. No one except senators can go beyond that vase. But senators, in this case Senator Kefauver of Tennessee, come out for a chat in the president's room nearby. The president's room was set aside in the early days for the president of the United States to come and confer with senators, but today he almost never uses this room, so newspaper men and senators use it for private conferences instead. Now, I received special permission to take you beyond the green vase into the inner Senate sanctum, into the cloakroom, where Senator Newberger of Oregon taps the Senate icebox for some mineral water. It happens that Senator Newberger is a teetotaler, but even if he weren't, all that is served in the Senate is bottled water. Senators have received bottled water free ever since the Civil War, when Washington water was contaminated. Members of the House do not get free bottled water. I don't know why. Nobody else seems to know why either. The same custom, I suppose, that makes House members pay one-half for their haircuts. However, members of the House are able to buy beer in the House restaurant. They have their own restaurant inside which the public is not permitted unless you're a guest of a congressman. And senators also have their own private restaurant, though they cannot buy beer. Now, here's another special feature in the privacy of the Senate cloakroom: a weather map, where a senator can see exactly what the weather is in his own state every day. Officer Leonard Ballard, beside the map, is one of 180 Special Capitol Police. These police guarding the Senate and the House of Representatives are separate from the Metropolitan Police for the rest of Washington, and no outside policeman sent by the executive branch of the government can step on the property of Congress to arrest a congressman. They have their own police and maintain their own law and order on Capitol Hill. Now here's another extra concession given to senators, a little subway car running between the Capitol building and the Senate office building. Senator Paul Douglas of Illinois has just got off the car. This car runs back and forth, the distance of a city block, about once every minute. When senators are in a hurry to vote or it's rainy outside, this car does a land office business. Here's Senator Mike Monroney of Oklahoma getting from his Senate office to the Capitol in a hurry. Senator Monroney is one who almost never misses a vote. But if you're a member of the House of Representatives, you walk. You have a tunnel, it's true, between the House office building and the Capitol, but there is no little car to take you in a hurry. You walk. The basement of the Capitol has so many corridors and hidden rooms in it that it's marked out so you don't get lost. Here's a basement sign telling congressmen how to get to the Committee on Appropriations and to the Committee on Foreign Affairs. Another sign directs them to the House office building. One thing you're sure to see if you're touring the Capitol is Statuary Hall, which some people jokingly and irreverently call the Chamber of Horrors. Here every state can place two of its heroes, Senator La Follette, placed here by Wisconsin, Huey Long by Louisiana, and William Jennings Bryan by Nebraska. Only one woman is in this Hall of Fame, placed here by Illinois, Frances Willard, the great temperance reformer, head of the Women's Christian Temperance Union. Quite a few interesting heroes in this Hall of Fame. Here are Robert E. Lee of Virginia and Jefferson Davis of Mississippi. Both men fought against their government, yet are given a place of honor by that government today. This spot on the stone floor of the Hall of Fame is where John Quincy Adams sat when he came back to serve in Congress after being President of the United States, the only president to serve in Congress after being in the White House. This is where he was stricken at the age of 80. He was carried across to the office of the Clerk of the House, where he died. And over on the Senate side is the famed portrait of George Washington by Gilbert Stuart, which you see on your $1 bill. So the Capitol of the United States is steeped in history, inspiring history, and along with it the humdrum housekeeping that the average tourist never sees. The travel bureau where a congressman gets his ticket home. The special post office operated in the Senate. A lot of mail clears out of the Senate. And most important of all, the House Sergeant at Arms office where congressmen get paid. Salaries are so low compared with the high cost of campaigning and living in Washington that about half the congressmen draw their salaries in advance. I can report that very few congressmen ever save any money serving their country in Washington. I'll report further in just a minute. Now we've been backstage in the Senate. Let's go backstage in the House of Representatives. The House also has its restricted area, its cloakrooms and reading rooms, where the ordinary visitor cannot enter. It's furnished with big, easy chairs and has newspapers from all over the United States. The man in charge is William Fishbait Miller, talking on the left to able Congressman John Blatnick of Minnesota. And typical of the makeup of the House of Representatives, Congressman Blatnick's father came from Yugoslavia. Fishbait Miller was born in Mississippi. And here's another charming congressman from the Deep South, Frank Boykin of Mobile, Alabama, whose motto is, "All is made for love," and who tries to practice it. These men illustrate how the House of Representatives lives up to its name and is representative of the many segments of the American people. One of the grand old men of Congress is Speaker Sam Rayburn, who's been in Congress almost half a century and has helped pass more important laws than any man I know, and I've known a lot of them. Sam Rayburn and other congressmen are so busy they don't often have a chance to admire the great history that is all around them. But when they do, they can look at some of the great masterpieces of America. This portrait of the signing of the Declaration of Independence, which my old friend Colonel Carl Miller, the Capitol Guide, tells me is the most priceless portrait owned by our government. Painted by Colonel John Trumbull of Washington staff, it shows John Adams to the left in silk stockings, Thomas Jefferson a little taller, and finally Benjamin Franklin, all across the desk from George Washington. After the portrait was finished, John Randolph of Virginia moved that Congress refuse to pay for it because, he said, showing John Adams in silk stockings was vulgar. Sounds like some of our own congressmen today. Well, that's the Backstage Washington merry-go-round of Congress. I'll have a final word in just a minute. Now, I'm not a Chamber of Commerce booster. In fact, I'm supposed to be a hard-boiled newspaper man. But I confess I get a great inspiration out of the history of Washington. I think you will, too. Of course, you won't see all that I've shown you today, but you'll see a lot. So when you get a chance, come and get acquainted with your capital of the United States.